Hey, welcome to Speedify Live Office Hours. I'm Alex Giesis, and this...
I'm Mike Kane. How are you guys doing today?
So, we are part of the team that actually made Speedify. So, if you have questions, we're live. Post them underneath, and we will answer them. Also, give us a follow so that you know when we're going live, and you get to see these, and you get to see all of our crazy interviews with other people. And tomorrow you'll get to see the Baltimore Avenue Dollar Stroll. We're going to leave the office, go IRL, firing up the gimbal, and we're going to go for a stroll in Philly. Check out all the cool happenings in West Philadelphia. But, so while we wait for questions to come in, a couple things to talk about here. I'm going to ask Mike about the awesome things he saw at WWDC. But before I do that, one thing I talked about yesterday and didn't show was the Speedify live streaming checklist. This is it. There are so many steps, right? I mean, a lot of times the advice to people, when you just start streaming as a way to get going, and it's good advice. But once you've been streaming for a little bit, you start realizing, in fact, there are a lot of things. Your computer has to be set up right, your microphone has to be set up right, your camera has to be set up right, you have to be running the right software, and all these things. We actually now even for this little goofy show, we have a literal written checklist. And before we go live, we go down the list saying, am I wearing my Speedify shirt? Is Speedify actually running on my Mac? Is the super loud air conditioner off? Right? I mean, every time we mess something up on a show, it gets added to this list. You see a few things added in handwriting here. And we really do it like an airline pilot or a surgeon. If you want to do high quality work, turns out written checklists are critical. So boring, unexciting stuff, but that's why we go live and the guest is actually there and hopefully you can hear me and all that stuff. So again, if any of you guys have any questions about Speedify, how it works, how we do our live streams, post them here. All right, Kevin asks, not our Kevin, can I use Speedify only for channel bonding during a Zoom or Google Meet? In other words, use Speedify to improve video chat reliability, but not touch any other incoming or outgoing connections. Is Kevin spying on us? So this is what I was working on up until I had to step away from my desk to do this video stream. So right now you turn on it VPNs pretty much everything. We have bypasses where you can say, oh, let Netflix go around me, let Amazon go around me, let Disney Plus go around me. But you can't right now default to most things should go around the VPN, except for calls. So we're trying to figure out, there's some tricky things about it. But we're working on it. So not today. I mean, you can bypass all those video services, but the default is that web browsing stuff does go through Speedify. So I hope that helps. He says he is not spying. All right. Great, Kevin's think alike. Yeah. Yeah, we got a Kevin here too. So Mike, WWDC, Apple's developer conference was last week, and you spent a lot of time watching all those videos and stuff. What did you learn?
Yeah, so a lot of time taking everything in, and iOS 16 looks like another great addition for another year in Apple. I think one of the greatest takeaways was, to start at the home screen and the lock screen, and we're getting widgets and complications right on our lock screen. So, Apple's given us less of a reason to open our phones and get the information we need. So that doesn't tell you about some of the future things coming. I don't know what might. So yeah, that's one of my favorite things coming out. Yeah, and as for Speedify, they have something new called Live Activities, and it's a way for NBA games and sports games to update your phone live right on your lock screen. So they haven't released it yet, not even in beta, but I'm hoping that it might give us some glimpse into allowing users to see, maybe the streams happening or, the connected server status right on their lock screen. So that's something, future Apple will tell us, but fingers crossed. I think that looks great.
Yeah, we used to have some sort of widgets, and then we ripped them out. What happened there? So
a VPN is technically an Apple extension, which is separate from an actual app. So Apple is great at supporting high-level apps, but when it comes to the extensions, things that run under the hood and without a user's vision, it really lacks. So what we did, we kind of hacked our way into it, and we updated the widget every few minutes, but it was never completely live data. And so we just determined that as far as users concerned, it probably wasn't the best thing that they wanted on their device. And we sent many tickets to Apple pleading, please let us hook in extensions to the widgets. So I'm really hoping that the Live Activities is their entrance into it. But until then, we're kind of blocked off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. What else was highlights of WWDC?
So, right before the break, we were talking about, another big user-facing addition is the messaging app. It got a huge overhaul. And I know a lot of users are probably hearing it in the news, but you'll actually be able to edit messages and unsend messages, even unsend emails. So I think we're entering a new way of how social media actually influenced, things we use every day. You have Instagram and Instagram and Twitter. They let you edit private messages or unsend or go invisible. And it looks like Apple's actually doing their take and using these features.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, with text between two people, you should just be able to edit them. I mean, I get Twitter. It's already gone out, sort of, I guess.
I'm on the other spectrum. I hate it. I hate this idea. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but like text messages for me were always the source of truth. Like somebody texts me, meet here, do this, do that, and there's a disagreement, you can go right back to the text. But now you can just edit whatever you want. And I think we kind of lose that sense of truth in these messages. That's just me.
Yeah. All right, Marbita asked, does Apple hinder a lot of Speedify settings? How different is to make an app for Apple versus Android?
That's a great question, Marbita.
That was a question for Mike.
Yeah. So does Apple hinder a lot of Speedify settings? No. Apple has what's called a sandbox. So you have an application that could do a bunch of things, but it's very security oriented, where you're in this box and you only have permission to access what you can access. And Android allows that a little bit more. So, when it comes to Speedify messing with other apps or sharing data with other apps, it's very limited. Apple does not want you to have access to any data outside of what you create.
Android gets more like iOS with every release.
And I think vice versa. I think Apple gets, some of Google's features. At this point, it's been, how many years? 10, 15 years since we had like legit iOS and Google releases. So I feel like another 5-6 years, they're going to be pretty much meshed together, But yeah, creating Apple versus Android is just a different paradigm. It's just a different way they do things.
I mean, there's the one feature, right, that Apple does not let Speedify know what apps you're using. Yeah. Which, they got good privacy reasons for it, where, Android went with, we need a special permission where we warn the user. But like, we have good reasons for it. Mm-hmm. If you want to say, I want my Netflix to go out cellular, we kind of have to know that it's Netflix.
Yeah, Apple does not.
I mean, other than that, we have feature parity, right? I mean, absolutely everything we do on Android, we do on iOS and vice versa, right?
Yeah. There's just small things like Apple needs your permission for push notifications, and some Android versions don't. Just different user settings.
I've seen Android phones do the blue screen. I just tell myself that Androids are genuinely tiny PCs. You've seen Android crash? Wow. All right. Yeah, so I've got a Pixel 4a. That's my Android phone. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy with it. So I guess it's 2 years old because the 6 just came out. And the A means it's the cheap version, right? So Google does the A versions where they put a plastic back on the phone instead of, glass or metal. What do I care? I mean, you put a case on it. Who cares how beautiful the back of your phone is? Of course, I haven't actually bought a case for it. I probably should do that now that we're talking about it. All right. Man, you guys are quiet out there today. Keep dropping questions, folks.
So we can talk about another feature for Apple, Alex, that I think went under the radar so bad. And I've been wishing for it for, maybe a dozen years. But the Apple Maps API did get updated. And instead of one point of interest, you can now add up to 15 destinations, and Apple will route you to each one. So I think that's fantastic. So if you have a carpool and you need to go to different people's houses to pick them up, now you can finally do it. And it seems like, why didn't that happen in the first place? But it's taken a long time. We're here.
Do you have to add them in order? Or can you add all of them and have it find the shortest route?
I'm hoping. I didn't update
for the traveling salesman.
It better give us the absolute fastest. It better have an option for the fastest route. Because otherwise, just why? Just why?
So of course it's a famously almost impossible problem to solve that on a computer. The what's the fastest route among a whole lot of points? Maybe at 15 it's still solvable, but as the numbers increase, there's so many possible paths that computers can't actually do it.
There's probably a good reason they chose 15.
Yeah.
I was hoping for 15. I'll take it.
Although it turns out it's surprisingly, there are algorithms that are like guaranteed to find you a route that's in the top 1% of possible routes. And that is not impossible. So computers can come up with pretty good routes, but they can't guarantee you that they're right. Marby's asking, how do you decide user limits? Phones used to only have 16 gigabytes of memory, and now they have 128 gigabytes. Do you move the limits within tech norms? Oh, you mean like the 2 gigabytes per month? Honestly, it costs us money to host. Hosting all these servers, and I see someone else was asking about it too. Wrong number. When you're using Speedify and bonding, your traffic is going through our servers that we are paying for. And it's very expensive. So we're trying to find a balance between, giving enough free service for you to be able to try it and being able to pay the bills. All right. This looks like a tough question. Anthony says, Speedify desktop randomly decides something I was doing was P2P. Same business apps I've been using for months. Restarting the PC fixed it. Is there a way to know which app it flagged? Send logs in the Speedify menu. So in Speedify menu, I don't know if you can see this. You click the menu, the hamburger, scroll to the bottom. There is generate logs down here.
Oh, it's covered?
It's covered, but there you go. You do generate logs. It'll make a zip file on your desktop and email that to support@speedify.com and explain just exactly what you said. And they will route it to the right person here who can take a look at the logs, figure out what happened, and figure out if he needs to add an exception. All right. Delta Media, any options to use a dual SIM ports on a phone at the same time for data? Mike, you want to answer that? Or
Yeah, sure. This seems to be a very popular question. So basically, on a mobile device, you only have 2 adapters. One port for your cellular adapter, one port for your Wi-Fi adapter. And cellular manufacturers, like even Apple, they only allow you to use 1 SIM card for data at a time. And you could go through menus and you could switch them. But that doesn't allow Speedify to use both your SIM card data at the same time.
Because there's physically only 1 radio in there.
Yeah.
Right. There's only 1 antenna. It switches between the 2 pretty fast. But the reality is there's only 1 physical radio in there. Each SIM doesn't have its own radio. So, yeah. We were really excited about that too. But yeah, Speedify does detect, when you change which SIM card you're using, and instantly reconnects. So we do the best we can. If anyone ever sees a phone with 2 radios, there's always rumors of them existing somewhere in China. We'd love to have you try it. All right. Konalur says, hi, I was wondering why my Raspberry Pi with Speedify installed won't share internet through Wi-Fi, only through Ethernet. There is an article at support.speedify.com about this. Did you follow those instructions? The same file you used to set up the Ethernet. That's speedify.com for speedify.ini, whichever .conf, I think. There are a couple things you change. You change it to Wi-Fi sharing, and Then you have to set an SSID and a password. It should work. I use that all the time. All right, PMX Productions. Hello, is there a device to bond the signals with Speedify without using a PC or phone for live streaming with external video encoders such as TearDeck Video, either Wi-Fi or Ethernet? A lot of people use Raspberry Pi for this, as a Conallure said before. Yeah, Raspberry Pi, they sell it as the $35 computer. Truth, by the time you get a case and stuff, it's like $90 really. But that's still pretty cheap. And we have full instructions at support.speedify.com. Go in the Linux section. There's complete instructions on how to set it up. All right, Quiet Galaxy asks, probably an off-topic question, but what do you think of VPNs but for phone numbers? Kind of reinvented a burner phone. I guess voice over IP stuff, right? I mean, Google Voice is sort of like that, right? Does that still exist? That you sign up on the website and they give you a new phone number, right? Someone whose name I cannot pronounce, sorry, says Wi-Fi can only be used as an input or an output, not both. On any, I'm sorry, sorry, that was a continuation of this first question. Got it. Hey, I need to send a log as well because your app does not work on my Debian-based Linux operating system, MX Linux. Yeah, send logs. You know the answer. Yeah, you can generate logs. Send them in. We'll take a look. Right. So Wi-Fi can only be used as an input or an output, not both. So this is sort of complicated question. So on Linux, there are some device drivers and instructions on how to trick a Wi-Fi card into being both a client and a hotspot at the same time. Doesn't work with all Wi-Fi cards, and there's some limitations about they have to be on the same channel, and it gets rather complicated and it'd be frustrating. You try the instructions, maybe they work, maybe they don't. The simple solution though is you get another Wi-Fi card on a USB, you pop that in, now you have two Wi-Fi cards, and one can be the hotspot and one can be the client, and that just works, and there's nothing too complicated about it. Followed all the config settings and he's still stumped, or she. I have no idea. Okay. Email support@speedify.com and include that file, speedify.conf, right, where you set up the sharing settings. If you could attach that to that email, we can get Kevin to take a look. Please update the UI of Speedify for 7.
Looks like the next one, inch LCD screen.
Oh, for 7-inch LCD screen. For 7-foot LCD screens. Where this is Spinal Tap.
Last I checked, I thought we were pretty good at smaller screens, especially for the Raspberry Pi. So yeah, so please send us some screenshots if you see something that's a little out of whack.
Yeah, or just a photograph of the screen. I can get it to even show up as disabled connection in the Speedify list after sharing restart. So it seemed to work, but it won't show up when I search for my phone's Wi-Fi. Oh, this is his hotspot. Wait. Okay. Yeah, so you're really close. You're really close because Speedify disables it in its user interface when it's sharing over it. But it won't show when I search for my phone. Yeah, send that conf. You've gotten very close. You've gotten very close. Yeah, so if you could actually send logs, the zip file logs, and I'm not sure if that conf file is included in the logs, so attach it as well. Call me V. If you're sharing over Wi-Fi on Linux, make sure you typed in the correct interface name. It might not be WLAN 0, it might be WLAN 1 or something else. Yeah, that is something to check.
That's a good support person right there.
Yeah. All right. Per Wi-Fi device. So if I'm using my internal Raspberry Pi's Wi-Fi to accept a connection for bonding, I can't just use that same network adapter to output a custom SSID as an output. It's just stating what's that. I think, yeah, I don't remember. I certainly have not gotten the Raspberry Pi. I almost want to say it's something strange, like the Raspberry Pi 3's Wi-Fi card could actually be a host and a client at the same time, but the 4's can't. It was never a supported feature; it just happened that the cheapest Wi-Fi chip at that time supported both ways. But I do not recommend going back to Raspberry Pi 3, by the way. Its whole data bus was just USB 2. So it was absolutely impossible to ever get Speedify to go above 300 megabits. And depending on your setup, a lot of times it couldn't get above 90 megabits. And it wasn't anything to do with the software being slow. It was the fact that even things like the Ethernet that seemed to be built in and wired to the CPU were actually just USB 2 devices. They're just, the USB 2 wires went through the board. So the secret corners they cut in order to make that computer so cheap. How could they make a computer that cheap? Well, they did things like that. Cool. So we are getting close to 2:30 here. So let's talk about things coming up. Tomorrow, IRL stream, we're doing the Baltimore Avenue Dollar Stroll. Taking the gimbal, we are going out, we are going to use Speedify, multiple cell phones, sharing among each other in order to give us bonded internet with nothing but a bunch of cell phones as the hardware. So that should be fun. Plus, the festival should be awesome. They closed Baltimore Avenue for a whole mile here in Philly and thrown a huge party. June 21st, which should be next Tuesday, we have Alex Petit, the tech broadcaster. June 22nd, next Wednesday, same time, we're going to have office hours. I think this is going to be Kevin instead of Mike this time. And then on the 23rd, which is next Thursday, StreamYard is coming in. StreamYard is, of course, the company that's making the software that Mike and I are using here to put together this broadcast. The fact that Mike and I are side by side and there's graphics along the bottom, that's StreamYard. That's what we're using right now. It's a fantastic web-based application for live streaming. And, oh, all right. So Kevin Cunningham, the man himself, has hopped in to help. Sometimes if the Wi-Fi is configured to automatically connect to a Wi-Fi network, that can prevent it from correctly starting the hotspot on the Raspberry Pi, even though it appears to start it. So you probably have to go into the network thing and make sure you're not connected to a Wi-Fi hotspot, right? Because if the thing on your desktop keeps connecting to Wi-Fi hotspots, Speedify will eventually lose it. There we go. So there, you can try removing any saved networks from Wi-Fi before starting the hotspot. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kev.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks for the tip, Kevin. I'll try that. Yeah, so do that. That's right. Kevin to the rescue. Can you add a text size DPI adjustment to your UI app? On a 4K screen, your UI is so tiny. Control plus. Control plus, it's there, right? I guess
I'll have to try it.
Maybe not on the Mac. On Windows and Linux, I certainly think we have that already. The same Control plus, Control minus that you use in a web browser. I just tried it here on my Mac, and it's not doing it. Just try that. I think we have that already.
Mac might have that in accessibility features. I'd have to check.
Delta Media, can I run Speedify on a Pi Zero? Oh, Pi Zero. Yeah, a Raspberry Pi Zero. Yes. You can. You know, there's a lot less hardware there, right? So if you, the user interface of Speedify on Linux is entirely optional. There's a Speedify package and a Speedify UI package, and you can just not install the Speedify UI package. And obviously, Speedify can only bond to what internet connections you have. The Pi Zero has less. But yeah, Speedify runs on it. Absolutely. All right. I think that's it. That was our half hour of customer support. So thank you, everybody who asked questions. It's good to know we're not talking to ourselves here. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you.
Kevin, thank you for bailing us out. And he's referring to the Raspberry Pi compute module. Sure. Yeah, if it's running Raspbian, it should be fine, right? I mean, if you don't have a screen, don't install the Speedify UI. There's still the Speedify command line interface. Speedify CLI is still there, and you can control everything from that. And basically anything Raspbian sees as an internet connection, a network connection, Speedify will see and try, and if it seems to have internet, we'll use it. So you should be good. Should work. All right. Thank you, guys. I hurt you too. All right. Thank you, everybody. And hopefully I will see you tomorrow here. Here for you in West Philadelphia for me. Yeah, try the CLI app, Speedify _CLI. In the directory where Speedify was installed on your computer, either Windows, Raspbian, there is a Speedify CLI.pdf. That is the documentation for the CLI app. I think it's also on our support site, but it's right there. In the install directory, right next to the command line interface, there's a PDF doc, and that's the documentation. Shoot us an email if you have any more questions. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Oh, wait, we'll give one more quick question. PMX says it's a quick question, so we'll take it. Is there a way to get a dedicated IP without getting dedicated server? Right now, dedicated server is the way to get a dedicated IP. So, all right. With that, good night, everybody.